Welcome to another deep dive. We're cracking open Tony Robbins' Money. Master the game today. All about personal finance and investing and how to win, basically.
Oh, yeah. It's a really interesting book. Not just the numbers stuff, but like how we think about money, too.
Right. And he starts off with this great story about Theodore Johnson, a UPS employee. This guy became a multimillionaire.
Yeah. Investing in company stock. It's like the classic compounding story, right?
Totally. But I was wondering, is that even relevant now? I mean, just sticking to one company.
Well, probably not just that. It is kind of risky. But it's more the discipline Johnson had, consistently putting money away, building his freedom fund.
Makes sense. So that long-term thinking, not instant gratification.
Exactly. And Robbins gets into all these traps people fall into, the myths we believe about money.
Yeah. What are some of those big ones that trip people up?
He talks about how we think mutual fund fees are tiny. No big deal.
Yeah, they seem small at first.
But they add up. Over time, that eats your returns.
So are mutual funds like totally off limits then?
Not necessarily. It's about knowing the fees, being informed. Robbins is big on those low-cost index funds.
Okay, and those usually do better in the long run.
Often, yeah. He wants people to become financial insiders, like learn the rules of the game.
So how do we go from feeling clueless to like these savvy investors?
Well, he talks a lot about asset allocations, not just picking stocks, it's spreading your investments out.
Right, not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly. You've got stocks, bonds, real estate, maybe some commodities. Diversifying, basically.
But how do we know which ones to pick and how much to put in each?
That's where your own situation comes in. How much risk can you handle? What are your goals? How long do you have? Robbins had this whole framework for figuring that out.
I liked that part, the levels of financial freedom, but it can be overwhelming. Like, where do I even start?
It's more about figuring out what freedom means for you, not fitting into some docs.
So not about hitting a specific dollar amount.
Not really. First level is financial security. Just having enough to cover your basic needs without stressing down.
That already sounds pretty good.
Right. Totally doable for a lot of people if they plan right. Then you move up to financial vitality, where you have some extra to spend on things you want.
Without having to work more for it.
Yeah. And then financial independence, which is passive income covering all your expenses.
No more needing a job. That's the dream.
That's a big one for a lot of people. And then there's financial freedom, where you can live a more luxurious lifestyle, pursue passions, give back more, whatever you want.
Like real flexibility and options.
And then the very top, absolute financial freedom, which is, well, money's basically no object at that point.
Wow. So really tailoring those goals to what you want out of life, not just some number.
Exactly. And once you know that, Robbins has specific strategies to get there faster.
Okay, let's break those down. How do we actually speed up getting to that freedom?
He focuses on 5 things: saving more, earning more, paying less in taxes, making your investments work harder, and this whole mindset of giving back.
Okay, saving more, that's the tough one for me. Any tips that don't feel like deprivation?
It's about being smart, not deprived. Robbins says look at housing, transportation. Those are big expenses.
Downsizing maybe? Or finding cheaper ways to get around.
Could free up a lot of cash. And being mindful of small expenses, those add up.
Yeah, the whole latte factor thing, right?
Totally. Then earning more doesn't always mean working more hours.
So how do we boost our income without burning out?
Robbins is big on personal growth, investing in your skills so you're more valuable.
Taking classes, maybe? Or going to conferences?
Could be. Or even a side hustle using your existing skills. Robbins says find those unique talents and figure out how to make money with them.
Like turning your hobby into something profitable.
Yeah. And then there's taxes, which can really eat into your progress.
The least fun topic, but so important.
Robbins has a lot to say about that. He really pushes using those tax-advantaged accounts like 401ks and IRAs.
Those are the ones where your money grows without being taxed right away.
Right. So it's like getting a bonus from the government for saving for retirement.
I like the sound of that. And he mentions those Roth accounts too, right?
Yeah, those are good if you think you'll be in a higher tax bracket later on.
So it's better to pay the taxes now while your income is lower.
Potentially, yeah. But always best to talk to a tax pro for your specific situation.
Absolutely. Good advice. Now, optimizing investments, that one can feel overwhelming.
It can be, but Robbins breaks it down. One big thing he emphasizes is keeping fees low.
We talked about that with mutual funds, but it applies to other investments too.
Totally. High fees over time can really eat into your gains no matter what you're investing in.
So it's like being a savvy shopper, comparing prices before you buy.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to look beyond just stocks and bonds. Real estate's a big one.
I've always been curious about that, but it seems scary, too.
Robbins says you got to understand the market, do your research, and factor in all the costs.
So not as simple as just finding a house you like.
Nope. Treat it like a business. And he also talks about precious metals as a way to protect against inflation.
Gold and silver, that kind of thing.
Yeah. They tend to hold their value when the economy is uncertain.
Interesting. So it's all about having a mix, a balanced portfolio, not relying on one thing.
Exactly. And Robbins even gets into certain types of insurance that can have benefits for retirement.
I wouldn't usually think of insurance as an investment, though.
It's not just that, but some policies can be integrated into your plan. Like annuities can provide guaranteed income later on.
So it's good to know those options exist. But beyond the practical stuff, Robbins keeps talking about mindset.
That's a big part of his approach. He says your beliefs about money can really hold you back.
So it's not just what you do with your money, but how you think about it.
Totally. He talks about shifting from scarcity to abundance, like believing there's enough for everyone.
That sounds kind of woo-woo, but I get it.
It's more about seeing possibilities instead of limitations. When you believe there's enough, you're more likely to make choices that attract wealth.
And that affects other parts of life too, not just money.
Exactly. It all ties into this idea of giving back, which might seem counterintuitive.
How does giving away money help you get more of it?
Robbins believes it creates a positive energy flow. Like what you put out comes back to you.
The more you give, the more you receive, kind of thing.
Exactly. And he says, don't think of it as a sacrifice. Think of it as an investment in a better world.
So it's about aligning your money with your values.
And finding a cause you're passionate about. Even small contributions can make a difference.
That makes sense. Now, Robbins also dives into this billionaire's playbook, interviewing super successful investors.
That was one of my favorite parts, getting inside their heads, seeing how they think.
Yeah, learning from people who are already winning the game.
Exactly. He talks to Carl Icahn, Charles Schwab, all these big names, each with their own style.
So what were some of the common threads? What do these billionaires all have in common?
One thing is, they don't just follow the crowd. They think for themselves.
That takes guts, going against conventional wisdom.
It does. And they're all super patient, knowing this is a long game.
So not getting spooked by every little market dip?
Nope. They stay focused on their goals. And they never stop learning, adapting to changes.
So it's about being flexible, not rigid, with your strategy.
Yeah. And it's not all about making money for themselves either. A lot of them are big on giving back, philanthropy, using their wealth to make a difference.
That's inspiring. So it's not just about the money itself, but what you do with it.
Exactly. And that ties into Robbins' whole message about purpose. It's about more than just financial gain.
Right. So money is a tool, but it's what you build with that tool that matters.
And Robbins has this whole framework for managing your investments. He calls them buckets.
Buckets. What's that all about?
He breaks your investments down into 3 categories. Security, risk growth, and dream.
Okay, break those down for me. What goes in each bucket?
The security bucket is for your sleep well at night money.
The stuff you absolutely can't afford to lose.
Right, so things like cash, maybe some bonds, very low risk investments.
Got it. So stability over high growth potential in that bucket.
Exactly. Then the risk growth bucket is where you aim for higher returns, but with more risk too.
This is where the stocks go, right? And maybe some real estate.
Could be, yeah. It depends on your risk tolerance, how comfortable you are with potential ups and downs.
It's finding that balance, the right mix for you.
And then the dream bucket is the fun one. This is where you save for those big goals, aspirations.
That dream vacation, maybe? Or starting your own business?
Exactly. Or maybe buying a second home, or giving a big donation to a cause you care about.
It's like that vision board, but for your finances, keeping those goals front and center.
Robbins says to put any windfalls or unexpected gains in that bucket too.
So you're celebrating those wins and keeping the momentum going towards those big dreams.
And remember, these buckets aren't set in stone. They change as your life changes.
So it's an ongoing process, checking in and adjusting your plan as you go.
And speaking of adjusting, Robbins has this technique called tax loss harvesting. It sounds complicated, but it can really save you money on taxes.
Okay, break that down for me. How do we harvest our losses?
It's about selling investments that have gone down in value to offset gains you've made on others.
So you're using those losses to lower your overall tax bill.
Right. But the key is you don't just stay out of the market. You reinvest that money into similar assets, so you're not actually losing out on potential gains.
So it's like trading one apple for another, but you get a tax break in the process.
Exactly. It can get a bit complex, though, so definitely talk to a tax pro before trying it on your own.
Good advice. Now, Robbins also gets into annuities, which I've always found a bit confusing.
Yeah, they can be tricky. Basically, you pay a lump sum or make regular payments to an insurance company, and they guarantee you a stream of income, either now or later on.
Like creating your own personal pension plan.
Yeah, kind of. They can be good for people who want a predictable income in retirement, especially with the economy being so uncertain these days.
But he doesn't like all annuities, right?
Right, he warns against those variable annuities, which can have high fees and expose you to more risk.
So what's the better option?
He talks about fixed indexed annuities, which have the potential to grow with the market, but they also protect your principal from losses.
So you get the upside without the downside risk. That sounds pretty good.
It can be a good strategy, but you have to understand the details, the fees, the restrictions. Always do your research before committing to any financial product.
Solid advice. Now, Robbins also talks about asymmetric risk reward. That sounds intense.
It's actually pretty simple. It's about finding investments where the potential upside is way bigger than the potential downside.
So maximizing your gains while minimizing your losses.
Exactly. He gives an example of a real estate deal where the investor had a 95% guarantee. If it went well, he'd make a ton of money. If it flopped, he'd only lose 5% of his investment.
That's a smart way to manage risk.
And it applies to other areas too, like stocks or startups. It's about being strategic, not just reckless.
So doing your homework and making sure the potential reward justifies the risk.
And it's a mindset you can apply to life in general. Seeking out opportunities where the upside outweighs the downside.
I like that. It's about being deliberate in your choices, not just jumping at the first thing that comes along.
And it ties into everything we've been talking about, really. Taking control of your finances, making smart choices, and aligning your money with your goals and values.
Right, so it's not just about the money itself, it's about the life you're building with it.
And speaking of building, Robbins dives into this concept of the billionaire's playbook, where he interviews some of the most successful investors in the world.
That sounds fascinating, getting a glimpse into the minds of these financial titans.
It's like a masterclass in investing. He talks to people like Paul Tudor Jones, who predicted the 1987 stock market crash, Warren Buffett, the legendary value investor, and Ray Dalio, who's known for his all-seasons portfolio.
So learning from the best of the best, getting their insights and strategies.
And what's interesting is, despite their different approaches, there are some common threads that run through their stories.
Like what are some of the key things they all seem to have in common?
Well, for one thing, they all emphasize the importance of protecting your capital. It's not just about making money, it's about not losing it either.
That makes sense. Sometimes it's easy to get caught up in the excitement of the markets and forget about the downside.
Exactly. And they also stress the importance of being adaptable, of being willing to change your mind when the market shifts.
So not being stubborn and clinging to an investment that's clearly not working.
Right. They know that the market is constantly evolving, and you have to be willing to adjust your strategy accordingly.
It's about being flexible and responsive, not rigid and dogmatic.
And they all seem to have this incredible patience and discipline. They understand that building wealth is a long-term game, and they're not looking for quick wins or shortcuts.
So it's about staying focused on the long-term vision, even when things get bumpy in the short term.
Exactly. They're in it for the long haul, and they know that consistency and perseverance are key.
I think that's a valuable lesson for all of us, whether we're investing in the stock market or pursuing any other goal.
Absolutely. It's about having a long-term mindset and being willing to put in the work, even when it's not glamorous or exciting.
And it's about being patient and trusting the process, knowing that consistent effort over time yields results.
And that brings us to another key theme that Robbins emphasizes, the importance of continuous learning.
Right. The world is changing so rapidly, especially in the realm of finance and technology. It's crucial to stay ahead of the curve.
Exactly. These billionaires aren't resting on their laurels. They're constantly reading, researching, and learning new things.
So it's about having that growth mindset, that thirst for knowledge and understanding.
Absolutely. And it's not just about learning for the sake of learning. It's about applying that knowledge to make better decisions and create a more fulfilling life.
I think that's a great point. Knowledge without action is useless. It's about taking what we learn and putting it into practice.
And that's ultimately what Robbins is encouraging us to do. He's giving us the tools, the strategies, and the mindset to take control of our financial destinies and create the lives we want.
It's about empowering ourselves and becoming active participants in shaping our financial futures.
And it's about understanding that money is a tool that can be used to create positive change in the world.
So it's not just about accumulating wealth. It's about using that wealth wisely, responsibly, and generously.
And it's about aligning our financial goals with our values and using our resources to make a difference.
Right. It's about creating a life of purpose, impact, and abundance that extends far beyond our own lifetimes.
And that leads us nicely into the next section of the book, where Robbins dives into the billionaire's playbook in more depth, exploring the strategies and mindsets of these financial titans.
I'm excited to learn more about their approaches and see how we can apply those lessons to our own journeys.
Let's get into it. So let's jump into this billionaire's playbook. Robbins talks to Paul Tudor Jones, the hedge fund guy, right? Famous for predicting that '87 crash.
Seems like someone who really gets the markets. What did he have to say?
Big thing was protecting your money. Not just making it, but not losing it. That's huge.
Yeah, it's easy to get greedy, chase those big returns, but got to protect what you've got.
Exactly. Tudor Jones says that's how you stay in the game. And be ready to change your mind, too, when things shift.
So knowing when to cut your losses, basically.
He had this great line, if you're riding a horse and it dies, get off. Sometimes you got to admit you were wrong.
Uh-huh. I like that. Not letting your ego keep you stuck.
And then there's Warren Buffett,
Yeah.
Mr. Long-Term Value Investing. He's all about patience.
Yeah, that seems to be his whole thing. Just wait it out, right?
He does his research, picks companies he believes in, and holds on. The stock market is a device for transferring money from the impatient to the patient, he says.
And he's living proof. Now, Ray Dalio, his approach is different, right? More about systems and cycles.
Yeah, Dalio's got his principles for everything.
Yeah.
Believes in having clear rules to follow no matter what.
So like a framework to make decisions, even when things are crazy.
Exactly. And he's all about understanding those economic cycles. That's where his all-seasons portfolio comes in.
That one caught my eye. How does that work exactly?
It's based on the idea that the economy goes through these seasons, just like the weather.
So sometimes it's booming, sometimes it's slowing down.
And just like you wouldn't wear shorts in winter, you adjust your investments based on the economic season.
Okay, so what does the portfolio actually look like?
It's a mix of different assets: stocks, bonds, gold, commodities. The idea is, no matter what the economy is doing, something in that portfolio is likely doing well.
So it's diversified to handle any kind of weather.
And Dalio has specific percentages for each asset class, but you got to rebalance it as things change.
Keep those percentages in line, right?
Now, Robbins also mentions this thing called tax loss harvesting. Sounds kind of scary, but it can be a good strategy.
Harvesting losses. Doesn't sound like a good thing.
It's about strategically using losses to offset your gains, so you pay less in taxes.
So it's like turning those lemons into lemonade.
Basically, you sell those investments that have gone down in value and use those losses to reduce your tax bill. But then you reinvest that money right back into the market, so you're not missing out on potential growth.
That's pretty clever. So you're not actually losing any money. You're just minimizing your tax burden.
Right. But as with any tax strategy, always best to talk to a professional before making any moves.
Now, annuities. Those have always seemed kind of mysterious to me.
They can be a bit confusing, yeah. Basically, it's like buying a guaranteed stream of income from an insurance company. You pay them a lump sum or make payments over time, and they promise to pay you back a set amount, either now or later on.
So it's kind of like creating your own pension plan.
Exactly. And it can be appealing for people who want that predictable income in retirement.
Especially with the economy being so volatile these days. But Robbins doesn't like all annuities, right?
Right. He warns against those variable annuities, which can have high fees and expose you to market risk.
So which ones does he recommend?
He talks about fixed indexed annuities, which offer the potential for growth linked to a market index, but with a safety net. Your principal is protected from losses.
So you get the potential upside without the downside risk.
Essentially, yeah. But it's important to understand the details, like fees and surrender charges, before you jump in.
Always do your research, right?
Absolutely. Now let's talk about asymmetric risk reward. It sounds fancy, but it's a powerful concept.
Break that down for me. What's asymmetric about it?
It means the potential upside is way bigger than the potential downside. You're looking for those opportunities where you could win big, but your losses are limited if things go wrong.
So tilting the odds in your favor.
Exactly. Like Robbins gives an example of a real estate investor who had a 95% guarantee on his loan. If the project succeeded, he stood to make a fortune. If it failed, he'd only lose 5% of his capital.
That's a pretty sweet deal. So how do we find those kinds of opportunities?
It's about being strategic, doing your research, and carefully assessing the risk-reward profile of each investment.
So not just blindly throwing money at any opportunity that sounds good.
Right. It's about being calculated and making informed decisions.
And it's a mindset that can be applied to life in general, not just investing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's about always looking for those opportunities where the potential rewards outweigh the risks.
I like that. It's about being proactive and making choices that align with our goals and values.
And it all ties back to Robbins' message about taking control of your financial destiny and creating a life of abundance and purpose.
Right. It's not just about the money itself. It's about the life you're building with it.
And that brings us back to the concept of mindset, which is a recurring theme throughout the book.
Yeah, Robbins seems to believe that our beliefs and attitudes about money can either help or hinder us on our path to financial freedom.
Exactly. He talks about the importance of shifting our mindset from scarcity to abundance.
So, believing that there's enough for everyone, that we don't have to fight over a limited pie.
Precisely. It's about seeing opportunities instead of limitations.
And it's about cultivating a sense of gratitude for what we already have.
And that gratitude ties into another key theme, the importance of giving back.
Right. It's that idea that the more you give, the more you receive.
Yeah, exactly. And Robbins challenges us to find a cause we're passionate about and commit to making a difference, whether it's through donating our time, our talents, or our financial resources.
So it's about aligning our financial goals with our values and using our resources to make a positive impact on the world.
And it's about understanding that true wealth is about more than just money. It's about living a life of purpose, fulfillment, and impact.
And it's about leaving a legacy that extends far beyond our own lifetimes.
Now, beyond these core principles, Robbins delves into the practical aspects of managing your money. He provides a framework for creating a solid financial plan.
That sounds like a crucial step. Without a plan, it's easy to feel lost and overwhelmed.
Absolutely. Robbins outlines a step-by-step process for assessing your current financial situation, setting clear goals, and developing a personalized strategy to achieve those goals.
So it's about taking a proactive approach, not just letting things happen to us.
Exactly. It's about becoming the architect of your financial future, not just a passive passenger.
And he stresses the importance of regularly reviewing and adjusting our plans as our circumstances change.
Yes, life is dynamic, and our financial plans need to be flexible enough to adapt.
So it's not about creating a rigid set of rules, but rather a framework that can guide our decisions.
Precisely. And Robbins also encourages us to seek professional guidance when needed. Absolutely. Now, beyond the traditional realm of personal finance, Robbins takes us on a fascinating journey into the future, exploring the impact of emerging technologies on our lives and our finances.
This is where things get really mind-blowing, right? It's like stepping into a science fiction movie.
He talks about artificial intelligence, 3D printing, robotics, even the potential for radical life extension.
It's a lot to wrap our heads around, but it's exciting to think about the possibilities.
And Robbins believes that these technologies will not only transform our world, but also create immense wealth and opportunities for those who understand how to leverage them.
So it's not just about adapting to the future, it's about actively shaping it.
Precisely. He encourages us to embrace a mindset of curiosity and continuous learning, to stay ahead of the curve and become active participants in this technological revolution.
It's like we're on the cusp of a whole new era, and we have the power to choose the path we want to take.
And that's what Robbins ultimately challenges us to do, to become conscious creators of our financial futures, and to use our resources to make a positive impact on the world.
It's an inspiring vision, and it's one that we can all strive for.
Absolutely. It all starts with taking that first step, with making a conscious choice to take control of our finances and create the lives we want.
So let's dive into this future, explore these emerging technologies, and see how we can use them to create a more abundant and fulfilling world for ourselves and for future generations.
I'm ready. Let's go.
It's kind of wild to think about all this stuff becoming reality, not just sci-fi anymore.
Robbins makes it feel very real, that's for sure.
AI was a big one for me. It feels like it's everywhere already.
It is. And Robbins thinks it'll change investing big time. He talks about these robo-advisors taking over.
Basically, algorithms managing your money better than humans can.
Yeah, they can process tons of data, spot trends we might miss, but that doesn't mean human advisors are done for.
So what will their role be then if the robots are doing all the work?
More like financial coaches, helping you figure out your goals, make big decisions, that kind of thing.
So the human touch is still needed, even in this high-tech future.
Definitely. AI can handle the numbers, but it can't understand your dreams.
And it's not just AI, right? 3D printing was another one that blew my mind.
That one's going to change everything, manufacturing especially.
Yeah.
Robbins thinks there's a ton of investment potential there.
But it's not just about buying stock in 3D printing companies, right?
It's about understanding how the technology will change the game, like customized production becoming the norm.
So people designing and making their own products at home.
Exactly. It's going to create all sorts of new opportunities, disrupt whole industries.
And that's just one example. We've got robotics, biotech, nanotech. It's a lot to keep up with.
And it's not just about the tech itself, it's the ripple effects. Robbins says it'll change how long we live, maybe even our consciousness.
Yeah, radical life extension. That one's kind of freaky, to be honest.
Raises a lot of questions, that's for sure. How would society even work if people lived for centuries?
Retirement planning would be a whole different ballgame.
Robbins doesn't shy away from the big questions. He acknowledges the risks, the ethical stuff, but also the potential.
Like, could we use these technologies to solve some of the world's biggest problems?
That's what he's hoping for, to create a world of abundance, eliminate poverty and disease.
It's a lofty goal, but kind of inspiring too. Like, we have the tools, now it's about using them wisely.
And he stresses that it's not just up to scientists and inventors, it's up to all of us.
So being informed, making conscious choices about the kind of future we want.
And using our resources, money and otherwise, to make it happen.
That feels like a good takeaway from this whole deep dive. It's not just about getting rich, it's about using your wealth to create something better.
Exactly. Aligning your money with your values, making a difference in the world.
And Robbins really drives that point home, that it's about more than just mastering the game of money, it's about mastering the game of life.
Living with purpose, having an impact, and leaving a legacy that matters.
So for anyone listening who wants to learn more, grab a copy of Money, master the game. There's so much wisdom packed in there.
It's a dense book, but worth the effort. Robbins really gives you a framework for taking control of your finances in your life.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it sparked some ideas and inspired you to level up your financial game.
And remember, it's never too late to start. No matter where you are in your journey, there's always room to grow and create more abundance in your life.
Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.